Hey guys, how's it going? Wednesday, August 29th, 2018, and it is hump day. Had a pretty good night. I'm not going to really do anything as far as video or anything remotely exciting except talking more than I can type. So I'll try to make this entertaining, hopefully not too long. So yeah, 7:45 Eastern right now, and this has been a kind of a strange week to say the least. So Ski went away, and I think Monday there was a server outage on his server, and I think Scott talked about hosting something in Run 8 or something. I'm not too sure. He actually sent me a couple emails. The one time I tried, I couldn't get on. I think his server. No, actually, it was on his second attempt. The first one I didn't go for, or I wasn't around, or something. And he had some new ideas or something. But I think that's the last I heard from him. I actually sent an email to him just to see what he's been up to. I went on Farm Simulator. The Ski server is up and it is working. It just was going through some kind of issue on Monday, so he rents a server, and he says he'd keep it going as long as people are playing it. I may encourage him to, at least, I can't tell him what he can or can't do, but from my perspective, I'd be very, very careful as far as my commitment goes, because even though we've had some fun on it, I sensed my son's okay. I guess kids easily get bored, especially, they see something and it's just like it's all exciting, and then they get bored, which is normal. And I knew, with Run 8, I understood why my son would get bored of it and everything. And it wasn't, I didn't get bored with Run 8 because of my son. But eventually, we're all kids, and I guess whether we're small kids or big kids, eventually you need something. At least some people more than others. Other people just tend to be happy, or take things a little at a time, or really don't think about it and just have the fun in it. And there's times where I can escape into something and have fun and feel the immersion factor. Run 8 I always there was a lot of times where I had that immersion factor, and despite the fact that people were criticizing it at first, saying it didn't have frogs, and graphics were like Microsoft Train Simulator and all this other garbage. I guess my perspective is I'm looking at the Train Sim forum, because that really is my only forum right now. And other than the Southwest forum, which I haven't been on lately because they just basically talk about their server. Trying to have conversations or get conversations going is very difficult, because people don't want to offend people. They don't want to offend the Run 8 guys. They don't want to, they don't want to step on toes and all this other stuff. So it's very strange that you can't have these conversations, because for whatever reason I feel as though I'm not alone, considering the fact that I know of at least one person that feels pretty much the same way as I do. And it's not because he's feeling it because he wants to feel the same way I know about probably two people, now that I think about it, that feel the same way I do. And if you feel the same way you do, give me a thumbs up. How about that? I could care less about the thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm just, post something on there. Give me something on YouTube. Let me know what you think. I'm not worried about the channel or gaining subscribers or anything like that, because honestly it really doesn't matter to me. But I'm just curious how many people are out there feeling the same way. Now, before I go on to anything Run 8, because really nothing's happening. There's still, yeah, I mean, you tell me what's going on, because I don't know. There's nothing that has me excited to get back into Run 8. I haven't felt, I haven't felt anything that, other than the only thing that makes me think about possibly getting back to Run 8 in the future is if version 3 ends up exceeding my expectations. My expectations are this: they're going to come out with something. They're already developing it, from what I understand, which could explain why there's not a lot of talk, and that things are fairly quiet, and I don't know what else. But that's been typical with them. Maybe not as many updates for version 2. I hear that there might still be more and everything, but that could explain. So if they exceed my expectations, yeah, maybe I will certainly look at version 3 as a possibility. But to me, they have to do two things for me personally. And like I said, I got my money a long time ago worth. It's one of the longest running series that I have ever done in any video games, period. Simulators, video games, you name it. It is by far, and I think maybe that's why it doesn't feel the same, and it's hard for me to find what it is that I like anymore. Maybe I need another hobby, I suppose. I'm not too sure about that. I still like trains, I know that. But before I get onto that, let me say something about some of the comments I'm seeing on Train Sim. It is not easy being a developer, and that includes Run 8. And I know I'm talking, I'm saying things that I want to see at least attempted, or at least communicated, or to but it's not easy being a developer, and I cannot sometimes stand the comments I see on Train Sim. It's like, okay, I understood the negative side of, how would you say, the negative side and the mass disappointment with Train Sim World. I get it. Train Sim World was a lot of eye candy, a lot of potential, and really nothing to show for it. But and especially considering the fact that they have a pretty big team. So in retrospect, I mean, Run 8 should be given a lot of slack. But I've also seen, over on the subsistence side, I've seen guys who, one person who was doing it part-time now is doing it full-time, updating it once a month. He's doing it all in Unreal 4. Yeah, it's not a train simulator, so there's a lot of other things to consider, but I do see certain developers doing amazing things. Granted, John's not he's never claimed to be, an experienced programmer, but neither are some of the indie developers I see out there who can and will produce, some quality stuff. But the comments that I see, for example, I'm not a big Trains fan. However, it is the closest thing that I have seen as an alternative if I was to get back into train simulation. I wouldn't go to OpenRails. I know somebody suggested that I consider going to program with them, and that's not happening. I'm not interested in programming as part of a team, and as far as I mean, to me, it's just patching an old system. I was even approached one time to program for Yard Duty, and I also declined. That one I was more seriously considering. But if I can't do things on my own, why would I even try to commit myself to doing something in a group setting and then have restrictions? And I don't want to do that. And besides, I actually do want to make a little bit of money, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Open Rails is totally volunteer. I don't know what Yard Duty was heading to exactly, but back then I would have volunteered had I been really that interested in doing it, and I thought I was going to. There was a time where I was very close to doing it. But getting back to the point with trains, I've never been a huge trains fan, but I like some of it. I liked how the signals looked. I didn't worry too much about the graphics, and I don't know. I think some of the graphics have improved quite a bit. They look really good. They look more like a polished railroad simulation as opposed to a model railroad. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's room for improvement, and they've had a lot of years of development, and they bring out a new version every year and stuff like that. But it doesn't look too bad to me. And I know there's Rail Simulator out there. No. And I'd love to get a more impartial idea as to what Trains has to offer, because it's very difficult. I mean, Train Sim is I don't understand that form. I really don't. It just seems like you have a group of, I don't know, a dozen, 20 people that post there, at least on certain sections of the forum, or they're all Microsoft Train Simulator guys or Open Rails. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, it's like, man, they're just butchering the hell out of 19 because of how it looks and everything. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, okay, one, it's probably better quality graphics, at least in my opinion, than Run 8, if you want to give it a thumbs up on something. It does have editors, we know that. It's for years been one of the better editors. I don't know. I want to find out more about what the guts has of the program, as opposed to worried about the eye candy and stuff like that. What is it going to give a single player or even multiplayer? I understand there's multiplayer. I'd like to know more about it. I'd like to know how it compares to Run 8. That's what I'd like to know. I want to know if I'd even consider it. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, it looks pretty good. I don't know how it would run on my system. I got a mid-grade system. Run 8, I could barely run 20 frames in most situations. I mean, I could if I bring down the sliders quite a bit, and maybe I could, I don't know. But my computer isn't getting any newer, so some of these newer versions of whatever that comes out, when they start talking about better graphics and stuff, that's when I start to think, okay, well, might be better graphics, but how is it going to handle? So that's what I wonder about. I want to know how the AI handles. I understand there's scripting. Well, what exactly do they mean by scripting? Do they mean scripting in a sense that it actually dynamically will alter and be smart enough to alter an AI meets? Or does it get stuck? And if it gets stuck, how can you go in there and actually control it? I got a funny feeling the answer to that is probably not. And does it do the things like Run 8 does, where you have a world that you save and then you go into it and you get to continue off from where you left off? Those are the kind of things that I'm interested in. I want to be able to progress through a world, do whatever the hell I want, basically. Maybe have multiplayer and be able to progress in a world, you know, and have some fun. For example, okay, and I'll go back to this Farm Simulator thing for a minute. Farm Simulator, it was kind of, you know, obviously it's a marketing strategy for putting something on special, especially when 19's coming out. And I've actually seen the YouTube videos for 19. I can tell you right now, I'm not interested in it. I don't see anything in 19, even the horseback riding or a little bit of weeding and a few other things. I really don't. And John Deere, like, who cares? No offense. I mean, I wouldn't pay full price for 17. This for me was something for my son and I to do, and we were really excited, and he really loved it at first. I don't know if he still does. I'm not too sure if he's too accustomed to the big world. What's happening is we're playing right now on a server that Ski had set up, and it's based on a real life farm, but it's much bigger. But there's really no city. There's really no town. There's sometimes it just takes too long to farm it and to see progression, I find, and I think that's what my son was saying too. That he wanted to see more of a progression. He wanted to be able to see, you know, things starting to evolve, like being able to see stuff. So I sometimes he has a hard time explaining it. Maybe I have a hard time explaining it too. But I got that sense tonight. I went on about an hour ago. And because Ski hasn't been around, and I'm not too sure what Scott's been around, it looks like nothing's changed. I had the time multiplied the other day, and you could tell the way. Actually, one of them's ready to harvest, which I was surprised to see. So I don't know if I did that, or maybe somebody was on. Maybe Scott was on for an hour or two, or whatever. But yeah, the one's ready to harvest. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's just me, and I've got these two big plots of land, and it's just me. So I'm not too sure what Scott's up to, but all I know is Monday I didn't really have anything to do, and then Tuesday was really interesting because Tuesday I'm with my son. Not only am I with my son to 9 o'clock, which I've been doing in the summer, I had him till 10:30. I asked him what he wanted to do. He didn't know. We watched a tiny bit of wrestling, then he got into YouTube. I fell asleep on the couch. I was just like, I was bored out of my mind. Monday it was the same way. Monday I was like, okay, I fell asleep on the couch for 2 hours. Tonight, so far I haven't fallen asleep. I got 3 hours to go, and I actually had quite a bit of sleep last night. So I'm certainly well rested, and I'm certainly not you know, I have a clear thought process. This is why I feel at least I know where I'm at in regards to that. But it was great. Yeah, I mean, I went into it. It was kind of cool because I could basically set the GPS mode, and I literally can only do one row every 3 to 4 minutes for planting a field. So that allows me to set up the path. I go do the recycling, and what happened? I was able to fill the recycling bucket. So, I mean, I got like probably 3 weeks worth of recycling to take out. Just cardboard recycling. I got all my can recycling out. That's not a problem. But I have extra cardboard that's just been lying around, mainly Kraft dinner boxes and cereal bars and stuff like that. I got all the pizza boxes out now, but I go through cardboard a fair amount, just basically by what I eat. And it was overdue. I hadn't done much most of the last couple of months, I would say. I brought cardboard out, and it was something that I needed to get done, and I did it, and boom, that was it. And I was like, oh, it's done. And then I got back and I sat on the couch, and I was, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I got 1 times. I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm not speeding up time, that's for sure, because I got a lot to do. And then I realized, this just feels like a job tonight. Forget it. I'm done. Just like that. Didn't have any interest whatsoever. It's not a train simulator. Bottom line, it's not a train simulator. But then I go back to the whole, what is a train simulator and what train simulators are out there. And I already know what we got to choose from, and sorry to say, Run 8's Run 8 is the top of the line, but it's just, it evolved and it kept getting better and better, and then just suddenly blip. It just didn't really progress beyond that. And I'm not saying that's not Run 8's fault. Like I said, developers get a hard rack. It's nothing against Run 8. That's just me. And I'm not the only one that feels that way, because it started back in version 1, and you can see I'm still, I really, really have to figure out what it is that I want to do, because guess what? I can't develop something as good as Run 8. If I quit bitching and complaining about it, maybe I could. But then again, I don't have the patience. I don't have the experience. Yeah, I haven't programmed anything like that. I just don't have. And then again, yeah, it's just me. So I was just saying, yeah, there's some people, one people can do something. I'm not as, number one, I'm not giving up my job. And number two, I don't think I have the skill set to do it all on my own. I think those that can do it on their own have to be pretty good, with visual art. They have to be pretty good with programming. They have to have a pretty good mindset to be able to do it. Plus, they have to be very disciplined. I'm not disciplined enough. So where does that take me then? I mean, I know what I want to do. I'm a good designer. I'm a good creator as far as ideas. I have tons of ideas. But I just don't have that level of taking those ideas and making them into reality. That's the part that I am very poor at. I've done it with RTS beta for a little bit. That was because number one, I had time, and number two, it wasn't that difficult for me to do it. All I had to do was I basically knew what it was I had to program and how I wanted to program it. Can I do the same thing? Can I do a version 2? Sure, I could. There's not a question of where I can't do it, or can I do the AI mods? Yeah, I can, but it ain't gonna look like anything, because then you get into the graphics side of things, and that's where my experience is not as good. I mean, think about it. The only experience that I really had, other than a little bit of commercial experience back in the early 90s, maybe late 80s, a little bit of experience through high school co-ops. Most of my experience comes from the late 80s in programming. It was a totally different animal then. And I even went so far in the 90s to program machine code for Commodore 64. I was able to make various little applications and what they call bulletin board systems. This is prior to the internet. So I was able to do assembly language in a Commodore 64. Whoop-de-doo. It means nothing today. Back then we're not talking about the spectacular graphics. And the funny thing is, compared that then to what it is now, it's a totally different. But they still had console systems. So the console systems and what was in the consoles versus what was in the computers was light and day. In fact, you can go so far to push beyond the consoles, and you still had arcade games. That was even a step further above. So you had those kind of technology versus the consoles, and then you had the computers. Eventually the computers would catch up, but then the consoles would step ahead a little bit, and eventually it stepped so far ahead that it took out the arcade games, because it became just as good, if not better in many ways, than some of the best arcade games out there, because the technology was so compact. It fit into a microprocessor and go on a high definition screen. Boom, you had something. And graphic art became a thing in the last 10 to 20 years. More probably 10 to 20. Yeah, I'd say 10 to 20. I wouldn't say the last 10. It's evolved even in the last 10. I never became a graphic artist. I mean, art. No. Could I do diagrams and drawings and schematics? Oh, sure. I could do flow charts. I could do all kinds of things like that, especially when it came into systems design, implementation, business systems, and algorithms, you name it. I could do that. But graphics? Nah. To this day, I know what the statement "poke 53280, 0 means. Well, wait a minute. I'm not 100% sure. Back then, there were 16 colors for the Commodore 64. 0 was black. 53280 and 53281. One was the background and one was the border color. Then you could start playing around with various locations. It actually made it very easy, because it was specific to the Commodore 64, and it was at a certain resolution. So you could actually program. You could use the ASCII code, and then you could do things with that, and turn it into something. So back then the standard wasn't as high, and yeah, I could program a rudimentary Commodore 64 graphics, no problem. At least at an ASCII level. Once you got beyond the ASCII level, then you were getting into the resolution. I forget what they called it back then, but then you were dealing with a pixel by pixel 640 by 480 basis and sprite graphics and all that other stuff. That I played around with sprite graphics a little bit, but I never really got too much into it. And then by then I was more focused on, more of a career business and stuff like that, learning that, and that went by the wayside. So that's the extent of my programming experience. So it's not going to be as easy as I make it sound, because it wouldn't be, and that's why I keep on hitting my head against a wall as far as what to do. But at the same time, there's that opportunity there. There's an opportunity to do something. There's still, as far as I'm concerned, a need for a better Train Dispatcher 3. 3.5 is technically abandonware. Can there be something beyond that? Sure. There's actually at least one developer, if not more, that have other dispatcher systems. So could I go just that route alone? Yeah, I probably could, and maybe I should. Maybe I should just focus on one or the other. And of course the other one is the 2D top-down yard type thing. Believe it or not, I'm closer. I know it doesn't seem like it, but the more I keep hitting my head and trying to distract myself by just taking it easy and doing things and finding new things, the more I want to. But there's a side of me that I really want Run 8. Honestly, I want Run 8 to show me something. Show me what you got for version 3. because I think that ultimately is going to, you know, you can say, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want right now, it doesn't matter. Why would you worry about what Run 8's doing? You've practically abandoned it. Well, the thing is, they've been known to exceed my expectations before. So they've done it more than once. And like I said before, I'm not here to this isn't about bashing Run 8. This is just one person with one voice who happens to have people agree. I believe there's a lot more out there. I mean, yeah, okay, I get 60 views. Forum is dead. It's like, you know, it's like, you know, what is it, preaching to the choir, or I don't know what the hell the term is, preaching to no choir really at this point, but you know, the most activity I get right now is people wanting me to help them in Run 8. Hey, I like, you know, I had a forum, the one forum post I had one day, they were all excited to join. So there's new people coming in, and they see, you know, they see what's on the homepage, or they think something's going on, and they really don't check the forum out, and they realize they should realize, actually, the forum's dead. It's just me posting a few messages now and then. I don't even really post to this point right now. I don't announce that I'm going on live stream. I don't do any of that. I just go live stream whenever I feel like it. And am I doing anything? Nah, not really. Not at this point. But I got 3 hours tonight, and now you know, this was one way of getting my mind a little clear as to what it is that I may have to do. But like I said, I really want to see what Run 8 is going to do. I wish I knew. Because if Run 8 was able to do something, they talk about all these third-party developers, they talk about I don't know what, or at least that's what I've heard in this whole Facebook post about third-party developers, and you know, new third-party developers coming on. I haven't seen any indication of any third-party developers. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if they're looking for third-party developers, their standards are too friggin' high. That's my opinion. And that may sound a little harsh, and you know, yeah, hey, you're saying, you know, these guys get, yeah, it's not easy being a developer. That's right, especially when you have a big loyal audience. And you might say, well, you know, you're not loyal. You gave up on Run 8. No, I didn't. I bought plenty. And I still say it's the best train simulator out there. It's so good that I don't think there's anything that can touch it. I'm not going to go for Train Sim World. I'm not that stupid. That's eye candy. That's just the dead end. Trains, I'm willing to forgive the fact that the physics are probably screwy, if not model railroad like. I'm willing to forgive the fact, or sorry, I'm willing to give them a plus on the editors, and I'm willing to give them a plus on the signals, and maybe the way they do AI, because from what I understand, they at least have a pretty good pathing function or something. But after that, how close is it to Run 8? I'm not sure. Something tells me they're not. They're way away from it. Am I going to be able to go into something and be able to continue? I saw a post the other day on Train Sim actually that asked us, and I in the end I ended up recommending Run 8 to them. I recommend Run 8 to, and the funny thing is, even though I'm not playing it, I'm still recommending Run 8 to people, and guess what? He went and bought it. I don't know if he did it on my recommendation, but he was hoping he was going to get a recommendation to Run 8, because he seemed like he was interested in Run 8. What did he do? And it's on Train Sim. You can go look. He bought Run 8 based on my recommendation. I said, you know, they were talking. Some were talking about other things, doing this and doing that. No, Run 8 was close. The closest thing he was looking for, like an open rail simulator. I forget how he worded it, But he basically wanted kind of what I want and what a lot of people want. The issue still lies in, once you're into these big worlds and you're by yourself. I know some people can run a railroad and just run trains and don't give a rat's ass what it is. If Run 8 is as real as it gets, that's where they lose people like me. That's where they lose, honestly, people like Scott. I don't know how many else. I can name a few names, but I won't get into it. I know Scott's actually given it a try a few times, but he's also looked into tinkering with other things. He's waiting. I'm pretty sure he's waiting. I'm sure as hell waiting. I posted an email to him. I said I don't know how you're feeling, because I hadn't heard from him in a few days. I said, but it's just like, I'm bored. Farm Simulator is, it's great for what it does, but then it isn't a train simulation. It's not what I spent the majority of my free time doing, other than seeing my son. And I mean free time as in not being around my son. So the time I'm away from my son, which is unfortunately being separated quite a bit. If I was around him quite a bit more, and this probably wouldn't be an issue right now. But it happens to be where I have these nights like Mondays and Wednesdays, and I'm getting into September. I'm getting a little nervous now, because I know what's going to happen. Not this weekend, but next week. It ain't going to matter too much next week. Come next Sunday's when I'm going to start feeling it for the first time. Now I got a radio coming. I'm hopefully going to be able to progress in my but it all depends, because now I got to use my son's laptop. But hopefully I'm going to be able to restore one of my older computers, and we'll see what happens there. But I mean, either that, or I get myself a used laptop, or I just use that as a hobby with him. But when it comes to Sundays, most Sundays, what'll end up happening after 3 o'clock is, at least it's 2 hours less than what it used to be last year, but it's still, that takes a lot of time. And Mondays and Wednesdays for me, those were the times I used to run my own server. And you might say, well, why don't you just run it? Why don't you just have fun with it? The problem is, it was limited. It was limited to what I could do. It was almost depressing, because it had the potential, but it wasn't there. You still needed enough people to buy into the whole idea of what you're doing. Just like how Scott's trying. You need people to buy into the idea. You need progression. And I understand that people can run, I get the tire trades say, well, I just spawn trains whenever the hell I feel like, but after all, I got Run 8 because it's got the best physics and makes it immersion, feels good, and all that other stuff. But yet they don't care about operations. They just want the train to feel good. Well, okay, that's half of the puzzle. The other half is the operations, which Run 8 has always had the potential of being good at, which is why RTS was involved. Because at least I knew I couldn't get the AI. I knew the AI wasn't back in version 1. Okay, no, we didn't have the AI and we couldn't have the operations, but we were people driven. We always were, and it was people driven servers like RTS and others that kept things going. And unfortunately, numbers wise, I mean, there was times where we did pretty good, but we never really were, with the exception to the very beginning at the top, we never really were there, because we wanted to run things a certain way. We didn't want to just please everybody. We wanted to do it so that it actually served a purpose. The car forwarding served the purpose. The switching, it all served a purpose. We tried to run on a schedule or a demand type system. It all served a purpose. And back then, there wasn't as many routes. Now there is. And they just keep getting bigger and bigger. And they're going to keep getting bigger and bigger until somebody has a vision of starting something smaller. Because that's exactly what it needs, something smaller. And why does it need something smaller? Because that would allow a single player to take full advantage of AI, be able to dispatch it, be able to do everything that he has to do in it, especially if the dispatching program was more intelligent. I don't know what happened with TSCAD. I mean, your guess is good as mine, folks. I mean, we've been waiting around for I don't know how long. And it's not like me where I'm talking a big talk and not producing. And I know he had some personal issues or something. I assume he still does, because he had screens, he had everything. He actually had a version out that worked for a while, but then there was nothing. And yet somebody like myself, and this is what ticked me off, to be quite honest, was that somebody like myself or others couldn't get involved. Had I been able to do, here's the thing, had I been able to do what I wanted to do with an external dispatcher, I would have programmed that thing. If I knew how to communicate with it, I would have programmed it. I wouldn't have hesitated. Why? Because it doesn't really need graphics. And you might say, well, yeah, well, how are you going to do the dispatcher display? Simple. I was going to link it to TD3 because I know how to do it. The only problem was I knew how to link it to TD3. I didn't know how to link it to Run 8, and that was the problem. You needed a certain DLL, and that DLL is full of, hey, don't do this, don't change this, because they're so paranoid about people going into their DLLs and breaking their system. I suppose they can be paranoid because it's their baby, it's their money that they're potentially losing for people who just want to go ahead and, copy shit and do whatever. But that would, and the whole reason why, and I've said this before, had I been able to do my version of an external dispatcher, it would have included AI dispatching. Simple. At the very least, it would have been AI assisted. And you might think, well, what does that do? Simple. Any route there is right now, you take the dispatcher function out if you don't have enough people. Then suddenly you're able to run trains. Not only are you able to run trains, but you're able to run 24/7 potentially, or at least get it to a point where enough trains are running and you're able to be able to do what you do. You cannot do that on California with all the routes. I don't care how good you think you are, you're not going to run full schedule. Even the ones that have the server, any server, you name me one server that's up for California right now that has every route, and tell me that they can run a full schedule. Guess what? They can't. That is not as real as it gets. So that's what version 3 has to be. In my opinion, that's what it has to be. It's got to be damn well close. It better have a better external dispatcher. Forget relying on other people. Get the external dispatcher to work, or at least, I don't know why, you look at Farming Simulator, okay? There's all these mods. Why is it that we cannot modify certain things about the game to our own liking? I'm not saying we should have access to everything. You can lock down a lot of the program if you want. If you don't want people, for example, let's say you don't want people making worlds because that's going to take away from your revenue stream. Okay, to me that's fair. Don't do it. You lock down the routes. Who knows? Maybe they're doing an Unreal 4 version right now. I have no idea what the hell they're thinking, to be honest. Maybe they're trying an Unreal 4 version of not Microsoft. They're doing an Unreal 4 version of Run 8 for version 3. That's going to get a lot of eyes to the product. They might as well, because they're not doing an editor, or at least that's the consensus that I've understood. I mean, they said back in version 1 they would, they didn't. Then it got too complicated, it was a long way off, they didn't. So I don't know where that takes it to them. But it's kind of sad, because I know there's some qualified people out there, and there's other people that are trying different things. But as communities, it doesn't seem as though there's a real there's not enough people that can get together and figure out what it is that they really want, or agree on to do something. I bet you there's enough people that are out there that think the way I do, that don't say, no, I'm anal about this, or I'm this, or why don't you just accept it, Sean? It's good, and we support Run 8. We don't want to talk bad about it, and all this other stuff. I'm not talking bad about it. I'm saying, as a fan of Run 8, what it can become. And I'm still to this day recommending Run 8 to people. Is it sour on my system? Can I let it go? No, I can't let it go, because I have a passion for it. I had the taste of what train simulation could be, and it got so far, and then it just ended. That was it. So what's going to happen with version 3? And that's why I'm holding back, I think, ultimately. Let's be real here. The biggest problem is my dedication and just getting down to business and doing something and shutting the hell up and doing it. I've gotten far enough lately that I'm not doing daily YouTubes, rants or whatever. I've gotten far enough to where, there was a point last week or whatever, I saw, I think the last video was a week after the last video I had posted before. So I've gotten to the point where, I've stopped ranting about it so much. And honestly, I could be talking to myself. I really don't know, and I really don't care at this point. This is good, because if, number one, I'm talking to somebody, I'm relating to somebody, or if somebody's getting a certain ear or understand what the hell I'm talking about, great. They don't have to comment, they don't have to like, they don't have to do a damn thing. That's what I'm about. I think I'm being real about it. Do I pipe dream a little bit too much? Probably. Do I... how would you say? Do I fail? Do I hit my head against that wall quite a few times? You're damn right I do. That's fine. Guess what? I'm not selling anybody on anything, because I've never made a cent off anybody as far as simulations go. I've had a lot of views. I've had a lot of subscribers. I want to give them something to hang on to. If I'm trying to sell anything, I'm trying to sell people that I'm not done. I mean, I am not done. If you think I'm done, you forget it. I'm not done. I can't get into anything else. I always go back. And am I still into railroads? You're damn right I am. I got a radio coming. I'm looking to scan ATCS frequencies from my son's laptop. Of course I still love railroads. What's my plan on what is it? November. October. Actually, I have plans this weekend, depending upon if things still go the way I go. I really don't know what's going on. This is kind of weird with Labor Day weekend, because there's some health issues going on with my ex, and where they're going to the person that they're going with, that may or may not involve my son, and if it does or doesn't. But one way or another, and also Amazon. I don't understand Amazon, how they do things. I made an order with Amazon on Sunday, and I know I'm ranting. I don't give a damn. I made an order with Amazon on Sunday for this SDR, whatever the hell this stupid thing is, radio thing. that's supposed to give me the ability to get ATCS, because I can get I got ATCS monitor. I've had it for years. I got it on my system. I showed it the other night. I'm not going to show it tonight, but so I've got the ATCS monitor, and that's fine. It's on my son's laptop too. All I have to do, and I know I'm pretty much certain how to do it, but I don't get what's up with Amazon, because I ordered the damn thing Sunday, and it's supposed to deliver tomorrow by 8 p.m. In fact, it updated that it would deliver tomorrow by 8 p.m., but yet the thing hasn't shipped yet. I'm thinking to myself, okay, it hasn't shipped yet? That doesn't make sense to me. Why hasn't it shipped if it's supposed to be there tomorrow? Most couriers that I have seen, unless it has a fulfillment warehouse or something, that it can just magically appear before 8 o'clock tomorrow. How the hell? There's no tracking, there's no nothing. It's just supposed to be there before 8. I got a funny feeling they screwed me. And if it doesn't, then, well, okay, well, that screws up my whole weekend plan, but it's not the end of the world. It's just, business with a very successful company. If I'm wrong, somebody let me know I'm wrong. Well, it doesn't matter anyways. I guess I'll find, put it this way, I'll find out within 24 hours if I'm right or wrong, because it's either going to be there or it's not. Got a bad feeling it's not going to be there, but at least tomorrow I'll get my son to I told him to get his computer, get it all charged up. Hopefully he remembers. No, you never know with him, but so yeah, I'm still into trains. I look for trains every day when I'm at work, and hopefully I get to see one. And if I got nothing better to do, I told my son, I said, we're going to just sit around bored. I mean, why don't we just go take a 30-minute drive to Burlington West and watch some trains in the evening. I should have done that yesterday, but I didn't, and I don't know if he would have been. He was watching YouTube or something. I told him. I said, he's still in a phase where YouTube hasn't bored him, and there's so much out there, and he starts watching other adventure games. I said, why are you watching adventure games for? You can't even get into the ones you like, or said you wanted to do, and now you're into other adventure games. Why do you keep watching them? Why do you keep watching other people's adventure games? We have our own. Let's play it. But yeah, I try to get him. It's just like, I ask him. I say, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? He don't know. I don't know if it's because of me or what, but I ask him so that he can give me ideas as to what he wants to do, and then I'll be like, okay. He gets on his computer, I get on mine, and then we have some fun for the night. Even Farm Simulator last night, just two of us running would have been a hell of a lot better, but single player, yeah, I think you need the smaller maps for that. I think the bigger maps, the ones that Ski has on his server, doesn't work well if it's just you. It gets way too long to get anything done, so it doesn't work too well. But anyways, going back to Run 8 before I finish up, and I'm going to try to finish up very quickly here because I know I'm just ranting. I foresee something happening. I don't know if version 3 is still going to make it for January or not. And honestly, in my heart of hearts, I feel that I'm either going to drive myself nuts or I'm just going to do something. Like when I'm pushed against a wall, or if I feel like I know the issue, I know what I have to do, I just have to go out and do it, I think ultimately I do end up going to do it. And talking about it and knowing the problem is half the battle, and knowing that I was distracted, knowing that I'm addicted to certain things like certain games, and I knew I was addicted to YouTube for the longest time. At least I'm slowly easing off of that, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, it's 8:40 and I don't feel like I'm going to be bored the next 2 hours. I don't know what I'm going to do for the next 2 hours, but something tells me I got to try something. And hopefully it's not going to be watching, just defaulting to YouTube and seeing what happens. But version 2 versus version 3. One thing that got me thinking the other day when Farm Simulator was that I saw videos of Farm Simulator 19, and I said right away as soon as I saw it, I'm not getting that. I'm just not getting it. Right away, it is what I've seen is not enough to sell me. I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't buy it new. I wouldn't, and that tells you something right there. As much as I bought Farm Simulator for a dirt cheap price for both myself and my son, I would not get it for even myself. It's not happening. I told my son that too. I said, I'm not getting that. I'm sticking with 17. Which relays into an interesting question. What happens with Ski? What happens with Scott? What do they do? Do they stick with 17, or do they buy 19 and move on to bigger and better things? I don't know. All I know is I'm not going up to 19. I've made my decision on that. I mean, things could always change. You never know, but yeah, it looks kind of cool and all, but not interested. I think Run 8's in a very interesting spot, or a very similar spot. Version 1 to version 2 was a no-brainer for most people. I think the upside for going to version 2 to version 1 was heavily in their favor. Trains, I have no idea. I can't speak from experience, but I imagine there are those, in some of those, every year has a new version come out where they may or they may not decide to go for the next version because they've had enough spending money and don't see enough changes. When you look at an EA Sports type thing, and I often call this the EA Sports mode, where people think they have to produce a game every year, the difference, that the selling factor is, especially if you're into sports, you get the updated rosters. You can't just download the rosters and the data. You actually have to play it through. And as I used to play sports games like baseball and stuff like that back when I was still playing the consoles, pretty much even during the Run 8 days. And one of the things that I found positive about it was, yeah, I'd get the updated rosters, but then the negative drawback was I'm spending more money, one, and number two, I don't get to progress the seasons. I don't get to go through the various seasons and see how my changes or my team develops and the trades take action. You know, I'm watching, I haven't followed baseball in 2 years. I kind of gave up after the Jays playoff run of 2 years ago, I guess it was. I think it was 2 years ago. I heard Donaldson's getting traded or something. Like, whatever. It's like they've lost that. They're on another. I thought they had a winning. See, this is how much I know about baseball right now. For some reason I thought the Jays were doing pretty good this year, and then I found out, oh no, they're having a losing season. I'm like, what? Oh, I thought they were doing so good. They were supposed to. At least I thought at one time it looked like they were in the wild card race for a while. They must have blown it again or something. I don't know, but yeah. So it's like, no, I haven't got a clue of what's going on with sports. I hear the Leafs have a pretty good team. Well, whatever. Beats the hell out of me. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I care less about sports anymore. But what I'm saying is the difference between these games. You go from Run 8 version 2 to Run 8 version 3. What's going to sell people on Run 8 version 3 versus Run 8 2? The difference between Run 8 2 versus Run 8 1 was a huge difference. Don't get me wrong, Run 8 1 had changed quite a bit from the beginning to the end of Run 8 version 1. That game changed a lot. What's the selling factor of Run 8 version 3? I haven't heard too much about what Run 8 version 3 may or may not have. I've heard about swing bridges and turntables and stuff like that. I could care less about those things. I mean, yeah, as a guy who likes canals, I kind of like the idea of what do you call it, a lift bridge or a swing bridge. I kind of like that idea, but I mean, right now in all the routes that you have, the only one that's applicable to is the southeast. Do they have more routes in mind that are going to use swing bridges? I mean, I'm sure there's ones that use turntables, but what is it that they have in mind? I have no idea. Maybe that's the surprise. Maybe, you know, they're certainly not, to me, trying to entice any of our curiosity. There's no buzz right now. There was tremendous buzz going in. I mean, yeah, okay, it's September, and maybe they have more plans still, and they have more payware they want to release, and all this other stuff. Maybe they want to get to the other side of Seligman. Maybe they want to, I don't know. Maybe they want to do the Yuma. So I have no idea. At least that's what they want to do. They want to turn California into a massive 1,000 miles of territory if they don't have 1,000 miles by now. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I understand their passion for doing California, and the crazy thing is there's still enough people that like it for some reason. And yet they're still missing all the ones who want editors. That's okay. You don't need those people. There's ones out there, but I can guarantee you put editors in that program. If you're not going to do editors, go Unreal 4. Go something big. Go that far. Go turn it into, I don't know what. Maybe they just don't have enough artistic production. I have, from what I see, it seems as if they're. I'm not trying to blame at anybody or saying anything about Nigel or anything like that, but it always seems like it's like they're waiting for him or something to get something done, or I don't know. At least that's the idea I get. I could be wrong about that, but like the programming side, you got somebody who's working full time, but the others, maybe that's where they can't produce that kind of quality graphics. Let's say I'm just hypothesizing, I guess would be the word. I really don't know. And hypothesizing is something that can get you banned on certain servers. You're not allowed to hypothesis. You're not allowed to think of what if scenarios or what may be happening. You're not allowed free thought. I mean, you got this whole censorship issue going on right now, especially with Google and Facebook and YouTube that I'm using right now. And there is a lot of censorship going on. And there's a push towards more. What we need to be able to do is accept our differences of each other. We don't always have to agree on the same things. That's the problem, is people don't talk anymore. People don't, they're too busy on their phones doing their own things. Multiplayer had a community environment. It didn't have to be the way I mean, RTS had their own community as well, but I see segregations taking place in not only the communities more and more, but I see segregation in the version coming. Because if you think everybody's going to version 3, you're going to have something that's going to have to sell them, I think. I really, really think you're going to have. Not everybody has the money. I've seen that. I've seen it time and time again. I remember there was a lot of resistance for people going into version 2 that didn't have the money to buy version 2. Times are tough out there, people. Trust me, I know. I don't have, I mean, I'm divorced, I have one income. I have a pretty decent job. I'm still in deficit spending. And I can only go into my nest egg for so long. I mean, yeah, I got retirement funds and I got other assets, so I'm somewhat protected down the road, but it's that time between now and retirement that's going to be tough. In fact, the time between now and December is going to be tough for me, because I'm going to have to either get it into certain assets I don't want to get into, or I'm going to have to really cut my spending. I'm probably doing the latter. I'm not going to be. I told my son. I said, I said I did it with the last one with the farming simulator and Miss Survival, which we barely touched. He didn't seem too interested in any of them the other night. I said, I'm not buying any others. This is it. He seems really interested in developing games, however. And I said, well, you're the one that has to, when I ask you, and I told him this on the way home, I says, when I ask you if you want to do something, I want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to think about these things ahead of time. I don't think he thinks about these things ahead of time like I do. I plan my nights. Maybe it's just because he's 10 years old, he's a kid. But I said, I'm not, like, hey, let's do this and let's do this now. No, I want to know what it is I'm going to be doing 10 minutes from now. And the truth be known, 9 o'clock, I'm still not 100% sure. I do know I'm probably going to be not recording this within the next few minutes. But then again, sometimes I ramble and I think of something else, and then I say, forget that, I'll just keep rambling. But no, money's tight out there. They talk about the economy being good and all that stuff. Well, guess what? The wages are not supporting that. And there's a lot of countries around the world that are still in recessions. And I don't want to get into the geopolitics and all that. I can go on about that forever. But I'll try to avoid that for now. I've had videos in that before. I'm not going to do that. But it is tight for a lot of people. Not everybody has a secure job, as far as not so much. Not everybody has a secure job, and not everybody makes enough money to pay for all the things like a vehicle to come to and from work, affordable housing. We're into housing, but Canada is in a massive housing bubble. I don't know about I hear the States is getting worse. There's other places around the world. It is crazy. Those are part of the necessities of life. Food prices are up. There is all kinds. Transportation prices are up. Oil prices are going up. All these things are going up, but wages are not. They're stagnant. So what do? When it comes time to buy another version of a video game, and it's still a video game whether it's a simulator or not, eventually it's, do you want to put food on your table? Do you want to pay the bills? Or do you want to buy a video game? And you can play around with disposable income. You can maybe forego taking an extra trip or an extra day at a motel, and maybe forego spending money at a certain restaurant, and decide, well, hey, I'm going to put that money towards Run 8 version 3. For some people, it's that they have to make those type of decisions. Fortunately, I guess right now I don't have to worry too much about those decisions, because I have a fair amount of a nest egg and other assets that I don't have to worry about it yet. But it's certainly on the radar, and I've talked about that for a while. And this is a motivating factor for me to develop something. At the same time, I'm scared to develop something. I'm scared to put effort and resources into something, especially if I'm planning on making money out of it, because I know how brutal people can be on the forums to developers. Hell, I mean, if you want to call an ace, even me being critical of what Run 8 is doing, I guess you could say I'm being brutal. I don't know. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I'm trying to paint a picture here to say, hey, this is what we need. Give some people a chance to help. If you can't produce certain things, give people a chance to be part of it. Give people a chance to develop. Give people a chance to become third party. I mean, you telling me after how many years that they only have 3 developers? They can't find the time? And if they did that, can you imagine the amount of money they could bring in by, I don't know, to me it's a no-brainer. If they're not willing to put in the editors publicly, then be willing to allow third-party developers and give them a shot. Because to me, I'm telling you right now, there's a market for a smaller route. I think there is. Especially a route that may not be the $40 route. Okay, put in some more quality and quantity, and then price it accordingly. So you don't have the quantity, you don't have the mileage, but you have some pretty nice scenery. It gives it a nice flavor. It has all the capabilities of AI and can run all the equipment Run 8 has to offer. Well, guess what? Sell it at a reduced price and see if that gets people. Maybe that'll be their first add-on. Think about that one. Yeah, they might have Needles and Mojave as a default, but guess what? They may go someplace else. They might go, instead of California, they might try something else. At least they've done something. And guess what? That'll get exposure and other people will do it. And if it becomes popular enough, more groups will develop. More servers will go up. More people will actually get Run 8 and then want to get that route if it's done well enough. I'm not saying, you know, there's obviously the Northeast. I mean, Mikey has been very supportive to this channel. He's done a lot of things. I've said, unfortunately, for what he's got, it is fairly big, and it's still difficult to compress for just single player. You still need a little bit more. I was looking at Syracuse. I was looking at a few other things. I'm actually interested in what Scott has in mind, because he said he had some, and Scott still runs Northeast. That's the only one I will run. As far as the Southeast goes, man, when Waycross came out, I was so stoked for it, and I still to this day think it's great. But you know, we already know another sub's coming. That's going to be the third expansion. They're just piling on more and more. It just keeps coming. For me personally, I'd love to see maybe, you know, some cheaper add-ons to add on to the scenery base. I don't know if that's possible or if they can do that, or just to make, you know, maybe some, I don't know what else they could possibly do. But ultimately, it has nothing to do with the routes. It has to do with what it is that you can control that is AI, what's truly AI. Because AI, you've let the genie out of the bottle. Here it is. You've got this powerful AI. Unfortunately, it only does AI for running trains. What about the ones that have to switch, and what about the dispatchers that have to route them? That's the missing component to the puzzle. You add those two things, then suddenly you can do anything you want at any time, and then it can be as real as it gets. That is truly as real as it gets. You know what I mean? And that to me is the potential. I don't think I could ever develop something at that level. It would take me too many years off my life, and by then somebody would beat me to it. Somebody much more talented than me, or a group of people would, or Run 8 would do it themselves eventually. Perhaps. I don't think I could do it on my own. I would have to do it graphics 2D, work with dispatchers, work with that, and I don't know if I have enough buyers or interest for something like that, especially with all the 3D stuff that's out there right now in the simulation realm. I just don't know if I could not so much compete, but just get a slice of the pie, even a small slice, to make it worth my while. But as long as it has potential or I like it, I suppose I can try. So maybe I will. Who knows? But it's 9 o'clock now. I'm going to end this now. I got a couple hours before I can go to bed, so we'll see what I can do tonight. I don't know. Who knows? I may do nothing. I probably will. Knowing me, I'll do nothing. I'll do nothing that benefits anything, that pushes things forward. That seems to be the way things go with me these days. But the good thing is, this is the hump. I got 2 more hours for the rest of the night to try to figure out where I stand. But these things help me. It just helps getting the word out, gets it off my chest. I don't have anybody to talk to about these things other than you guys. So thanks for listening to me vent as usual, and you know, always post a forum message. You want to post on YouTube, go ahead, let me know what you think. And if you're still there, maybe none of you will listen to this video this long, but that's okay. At least I get it off my chest, and that's all the important thing is for now. So okay guys, that's it for now. I don't know when I'm going to be back. Hopefully I can come back sometime when I actually have something to show or do or something, but I don't know about these weekly things because I'm really kicking a dead horse at this point. So anyways, I'll talk to you later, and take it easy. See ya.